left off Nun Aleph, page 243. We're talking about if in Chutzlitz we have a Sveika Yoma. It says that we say the psulim, or let's say that you have to own it, doesn't apply beyond the first day. But a Sveika Yoma, it says the second day you could take it, but without a bracha. So he said, therefore, if you have a choice, if you have an alternative to use somebody else's, you should say the bracha on somebody else's based on matonah maslahazir. Give it back, and then you take your own. He should give him a gift which is no less than being yotzi in the first day. Avo shlomi daito. Apishkos leel demute nechle inish lemev mitzvah b'monei. Mikol mokom lo odef mishol. He says, although we say a person is agreeable that you should borrow it, but in terms of the transfer you have to be consciously aware of it. It's okay, it's not so simple. What he's saying here is a chidush. I mean, that we discussed this the other time. Because if that's the case, how do you ever say a bracha on a talus? He says, when we say, the Gemara says, nechle inish levin mitzvah, when a person is agreeable that you should do a mitzvah with his object, that's only borrowing-wise. But to be able to transfer, that he has to be consciously aware. So therefore, he's not aware that you're taking it. So you don't have the conscious transfer. Talk about a lumdus over here. It says the word of Tzos, the famous Machal Tzos and Shach in Bav Mitzia, Neil Mitzias, Murray Barisik, the whole story over there. You know, we'll discuss it in a minute. The Gemara says that when it comes to a mitzvah, somebody wants to use it, your object, the owner would be agreeable and happy you should use his object. Now, we say, Shol Shol Midas is Gazlan. You borrow something, you have no permission, you're doing the wrong thing. But if we say with absolute certainty, a person would not mind. So therefore, he doesn't have to be consciously aware of it, as long as there's no opposition. To transfer something, you have to have an awareness. Right? You can't be kona unless I'm agreeable to transfer. This is like Yushlo Midas. Yushlo Midas means, that we discussed this, that unless there is a conscious awareness, transfer doesn't take place. So if you have to own the esrog or the dalit medium, and I want to use it without the person being aware that I want to use it, it's not going to work on the first day. We discussed earlier. Why? Because that you need, the owner has to be aware that you want to acquire it. So if you ask him, could I please use it to be yotzei? So he gives it to you whatever you need it for. But if he's unaware that you're using his object, so therefore, as much as we say nechlin, that's only he's not opposed. But for the actual transfer, you have to need awareness. He's not aware. Even though he's not opposed, he's not aware. So to create a transfer, you need awareness. Doesn't make a difference. It's like Yushla Midas. If he would have known, he would have despaired. But unless you no, but the Gemara equates this to kinyan, right? So, wait, 1 second. Shul Leshing belongs to the tzibur. It's purchased for that. It's purchased for people to use. No, it's not a partnership. It's not a partnership. If it's a partnership, you're not yotzei. No, but it's purchased for matona maslazer. Whoever wants to take it, he should take it. If it's a privately owned master, that's not what it's purchased for. It's mine. You want to borrow it, I'll transfer it to you. You should be able to be yotzei. But that's not the mindset of a person. That's how he's differentiating. So he's saying it would be shol, therefore it's possible yom tov rishon. Therefore, on the second day, when you want to borrow it, because you can't be yotze with yours, because it has all these questionable defects, that we do the waving, we do the nanuim and halel, you could rely on the other opinions that you could be yotze, because it's not a sveika diyoma, because those are all rabbinic laws. No, there's rabbinically, there's a mitzvah to wave the lulav during halel. I'm told there's a question in Psochim, in the first parak, you need overlasi yosan. So Tosas asks, if your mitzvah is kavona, the moment you take it, you yotze. So how do you say the bracha after you've taken it? That's Tosas' question. Tosas says that since there's a mitzvah rabbanan to be menanea the lulav in the halel, therefore it's still before you fulfilled the mitzvah completely. There's still what to go. So it's still prior to the fulfillment of the full mitzvah. then not, even when if you take the lulav in your hand, there's a mitzvah rabbinic to be menaneh, to wave it in all directions. So the mitzvah is still prior to the mitzvah, to the completion of the mitzvah. No, that's Tosas and Sukkah says. Tosas and Sukkah says, therefore we take it inverted, so you're not Yotzei for that reason. Well, you take it specifically in mind that you don't want to be Yotzei. Those two answers are said in Sukkah. This Tosas and Psochim. That he says, although that you Yotzei based that doesn't make a difference, because since there's a mitzvah to wave it, so the mitzvah still hasn't yet been completed. Therefore, the bracha is prior to the completion of the mitzvah. That's Tosas' answer in Psochim. No, so no. That's the difficulty. That's the difficulty. See, this is the difficulty with the talis. With the talis, because the talis, if you come to shul and you want tefillin, you don't have to own the tefillin to be yotzei. Yotzei borrowed, but to say the bracha on the sati, you have to own the talis. But yet we rule halacha. You come to shul, you take the talis, unbeknown to the owner of the talis. We say because a person is agreeable that you should use his talis, he's actually transferring it. So if by talis it works, so why shouldn't it work by daled minim? Say the same thing. Talis is the only question. There's the only difficulty here. Outside of talis, nothing else do you have to own. It's separate. Had no relevance to that. So why in the second they could be yotzei? It says in the second that you could take it. I don't want you to touch my esrog, right? No, I don't want you to. I paid $1,000 for it. I want you tampering with it. If it's that kind of esrog, we could say with certainty he wouldn't want you. You're not permitted to touch it, right? Person has an esrog in a silver box, and it has a lock on it, and you could pick the lock. You're permitted to open the box to take the esrog out? Of course not. No, nechel mitzah achnosas orchim. Gadol achnos orchim kabels b'nei hashchina. So I could pick the lock, go into your house, and sleep in your bed when you're away, right? Achnosas orchim. You definitely would want that. No, talis. I have difficulty with talis. I'm not talis is difficult. It's difficult. I don't understand it. It's inconsistent, right? Before he said there are some who say that we do say it even by lulav we say it. There was no the Mogen Avram. Maybe the Mogen Avram holds by talis also. It's a problem. La halacha we rule by talis you can. Here it's speaking when you have a choice. When you have a choice, you should ask the person to transfer it. But he says, but if not, don't say a bracha. That's the psak of the mechaber. Why don't say a bracha? He says, but it's only if the person's here to give it to you. But to borrow it, that we know he would want you should use as daled minim for the mitzvah is not sufficient to cause the transfer, because it's not yours. It's no better than shula, than borrowed. It's inconsistent. No, the Mechaber is not talking about Haram Stachas. He's speaking about a psul. Mechaber Paskas, all the invalidations don't apply the second day in Eretz Yisrael. But second day, Chutzlar, it's a Sveka Diyoma. So he says you could take it, but without a bracha. Bracha not. Okay, let's see Vav. Let's say second day in Israel. Because the second day you do not have to own it. Right? You don't have to own the daled minim. Even Yotze would have borrowed lulav. And rabbinical. They did not require it. The subsequent days they did not require ownership.
So that's why you can even give it to your child.
That's why you can even give it to your child and get it back. Although he's not transferring it back. It's not a problem.
You never transferred it to him in the first place.
No, you did transfer it.
For ownership.
For ownership. If you transfer him for ownership, you Yotze the first day, then you give it to your child. Second day, but you already he never transferred it back to you. A child doesn't have the ability to transfer.
No, but you didn't give it to him for ownership.
You did give it. You have to give it to him for ownership. Otherwise, he's...
The second days.
The first...
You don't have to own it in the second.
Wait a second. 1 second. The whole problem becomes a problem if you gave it to your child the first day to be Yotze. We're talking about chinuch. Chinuch means you have to give it to him in a context that if you be an adult, he'd be Yotze. So that means after you were Yotze, when you give it to your child, in what context do you give it to him? That he should own it. On the first day. Once he owns it, he always owns it. He can never relinquish it. So now when you want to use that esrog and lulav on the second day, whose esrog and lulav are you using? The child's. So, so basically it's borrowed. Although he's not able to transfer it back to you, you're borrowing your child's esrog. It's not a problem. That's it.
I'm asking the question on the second day.
The second days, what are the second days?
Not the first day. Let's say we're in Israel, the intermediate days of Sukkot.
So it's shula, borrowed is fine.
Borrowed is fine. That's what I'm saying. You can actually take your minor son and have him perform the mitzvah with a bracha, and he just gives it back to you, and it's not a problem.
That's what we just said.
I'm saying. That's not what
That's exactly what we said.
when he was performing with it in the intermediate days, he wasn't owning it.
Nobody, even an adult, doesn't have to own it.
He was just borrowing.
Right? So the same thing we're saying here. If you go to a shul, you find the dalit minim, and you want to take them with unbeknown to the owner, it's not a problem. Why? Because it's borrowed. You also with a borrowed lulav, borrowed esrog. Okay. All dalit minim. All dalit minim. All dalit minim. Right.
What about a minor child who wants to borrow the shul tights? How does that work?
It's not a problem. And he wants to say a bracha.
He wants to put on the tights because that's his tights.
It's not a bracha because you could have endless owners. You could have a partnership. So let's say to say the bracha, you have to have some percentage ownership in it. Okay, it could be an infinitesimal amount of ownership. He could say the bracha already. It says he's a partner.
Oh, he doesn't have to have complete ownership.
Doesn't have to have complete ownership. Right, that's the difference.
If he did have to have complete ownership,
Then it's a problem.
then it's a problem.
Then it's a problem.
Return it.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Just let's begin the next mechaber. B'shas adchak she'nimtza kosher. Kol ha'psulim notlin ve'mevorchim. Here the mechaber says, you can't find an esrog that's hodor. It's spotted, it's choser, it has every problem. Okay? Kol psulim notlin. Whatever the invalidation is, you take it. However, ve'mevorchim. What are you talking?
What would happen if you're not making a bracha?
That's what he's saying. Mevorchim, no. What's its value? Take a lemon. Do you take a lemon? You don't take a lemon
Well,
because it's not the species.
Right.
So if we say the psulim valid to the point it's not considered the species that yotze, why take? Why bother with it? The answer is it's basically you are yotze. But since there's an element of question, we say sub brachas lokil. You should not say a bracha on it.
but you go through the whole motion of the sukkah, the wave and
So he makes the point. Kol psulim means it is the species, but there's invalidations. What happens if it's not even the species? Then of course, then you don't take it. You're wasting your time.
so
To be continued.
You wave,
What do you wave? You have a broom. You don't have a lulav. What do you take? A broomstick, right?
but you still want to form something. And
It's nothing. It has no value.